Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to paint a landscape by Thomas Kinkade called Forest Chapel. This is part one of a two-part series, and so in this first episode I'm going to show you how to get started by painting the basic shapes and textures before we go on to paint any fancy details. When it comes to painting landscapes in general, compared to doing Kinkade's work, there's going to be some major differences. His landscape paintings have so much rich detail inside every single object. Everything is carefully placed in position, down to the smallest and most insignificant parts, thoughtfully crafted. The way they are elegantly blended together so seamlessly creates the illusion that it's simple to paint. But as you can see here, it took him a vast amount of hours to create this intricate landscape painting. So let's get started. I didn't do any underpainting this time because I gessoed the canvas with a few layers that gave this canvas a very smooth surface. I want to start out by using this grid, which helps me paint more accurately from the reference photo. Here in the beginning, I'm painting all the main shapes and colors of the painting. I'm using very loose brush strokes for right now, just establishing this first layer of paint. What you could do that helps is to squint at the photo and see what the overall shape looks like and paint these basic colors. Another thing I'm doing is that I'm also paying attention to the values. Pay attention to where the shadows are, as well as the brightest parts. This part of the process is called blocking in, where you essentially add these blocks and chunks of paint and snap them onto this grid. Also, in this early stage, I'm using pretty desaturated colors because they are going to be painted over later on anyways. This painting has lots of intricate detail, and thinking about painting it can seem overwhelming, but if you work from big to small with making these basic shapes, you shouldn't have any trouble finishing this. One thing you'll be doing a huge amount in this stage, more so than at any other time, is that you'll be switching your paint mixture on this palette a lot. You're painting so many different colors and values that you're going to be going back and forth between the palette, canvas, and cleaning the brush many times. Also, the way colors work is interesting. When you have all these desaturated tones everywhere, wherever you do apply more bold and vivid colors, they will be more enhanced because of how much they will be standing out. Now I need to start working on the church building. Once again, all I want to do right now is paint the main edges of it and take an approximate guess at how they align with the grid. I want to paint all the outer edges of it because there's going to be so many different trees and vegetation around it that I need to block it in as well. Once you get those outer parts established, all you gotta do is put the rest of the shapes in the right places, but that'll be for a later time. Now I want to continue adding some more blocking in of the massive amount of vegetation going on. This bottom left part of the painting is the darkest part of this picture. The grass is going to have a transition where it's going to get brighter as it goes to the right, and this gradient effect helps add more depth to the painting. Now over here the objects are going to be brighter, but the thing about painting these is that the mixture you use is also going to be much brighter than you think. And so with this mixture, be generous with how much white you add to it. The contrast here is really low, and the challenge here is that there are several layers that are all distant objects, and they vary gradually and slightly change in value. During this blocking in stage, I'm not completely focused on matching these values, but I'm more concerned about getting the shapes snapped onto the right places. We'll get to the right colors later. The way colors work is interesting because when you use complementary colors like the green and magenta, their intensity will be magnified even when they are toned down like this. Another thing is that the values of clouds are very close to the values of the background sky. There's not going to be that much contrast, so make sure not to paint them too dark. They are also going to be blended on their edges so they don't look too solid. So with the sky, you want to have a slight gradient effect here where the edge of it is darker and it transitions into this lighter blue. Having darker values around the edges of the painting helps draw attention more towards the middle and also prevents the picture from looking flat. Now with these trees, I want to keep them very desaturated, but they are going to have some variety with the color and value. The thing about painting distant objects is that it's kind of easy to neglect them because after all, they're far away, so who cares how they look? But that's wrong. If you notice the original picture, you have a good amount of variety with these desaturated colors and values. Some of these background trees will be further away than others, and so it's very important to pay attention to the values you're using here, since the margin of error here is really tight. The main concern is to make sure the colors are extremely desaturated. Also, make sure to blend the edges of them against the background. I just recently finished painting the background sky, so the paint is still wet. Use this window of time to take advantage of this by being able to blend the paint on the canvas. Objects in the background are going to be as sharp, so blending the edges is going to be important. Okay, so now I have the major blocking in finished, where I feel comfortable moving on with being more specific with my painting. I'm going to work in this section here where I'm still blocking in the basic shapes, but on a smaller scale. There's lots of different trees and vegetation going on here, and so what I want to do first is to line up where the main shapes are. This area also has a misty background, so I want to establish part of that here. I don't need to paint the entire thing, just enough for this part. I'm still using desaturated colors here, and so as you keep establishing these components, do some blending because the edges of these plants will emerge from the background. I like to work locally when I do this stage of painting because it helps me stay organized. Right now I'm getting an idea of where these trees and bushes meet and what basic shapes they have. I want to get some basic textures on these shapes I'm painting, nothing too elaborate here. I also want to make sure they are blended as well so they can serve as a smooth foundation for the details I'll be painting on top. As I'm progressing in this stage of blocking in, I want to still pay attention to the overall basic shapes of these objects. This painting has so much rich detail that it's easy to get overwhelmed by it if that's what you're constantly thinking about. But for now, your main concern should be just squinting at the photo to see what big shadows, lines, and shapes you need here. Work from big to small so that once we get all the shapes snapped onto the canvas, then we can focus on the details. I would also argue that this part right now is the hardest part because you're working hard at trying to match the photo with the shapes you're making in the painting. I think working on the details is easier because everything is already matched onto the canvas, and all you have to do is refine everything with sharper brushing and technique, which I'll show you later. You're going to have so many slight gradations and transitions going on here, and so take your time with studying the photo and understand how all these different shapes of the vegetation come together. This isn't the time to paint anything sharp, but to do lots of blending with the edges of each object. Notice how I'm using mainly desaturated green here in varying degrees of light. Doing preliminary work like this is extremely important because during this time when you're snapping everything into its rightful place, you need to keep the intensity down. Now I'll be working on this tree here. I want to paint the trunk and main branches first real quick, and then I'll start working on the first layer of these leaf clusters. Also, really important to remember, I'm working on this tree immediately after I just finished the background behind this tree. I want the paint to still be wet here because I'm going to be doing some blending here with these leaf clusters that I'm painting. This tree is going to have some red and orange leaves. For this layer I'm using some basic colors because they'll become more desaturated anyways as I blend them later on. I don't want the color to be too strong yet because this layer is going to be groups of leaves furthest away from us. I'm not painting each individual leaf but the main clusters that I will be expanding later on, so don't go overboard with painting these. Spread them out enough to be able to still see enough of the background. When I have enough of those on there, then I carefully blend the edges into the background. When it comes to painting trees that have a light amount of leaves, you want to maintain some transparency with them so you can see what's behind it. In this early stage of painting, there's going to be lots of preliminary blending like this amongst objects, so that later on they can make the sharp detail more visible and stand out much more. Now let's focus on the background trees here. The contrast is going to be extremely low, and so the colors here will be very close in value and chroma. I also want to paint some mist inside this group of trees. When you're mixing the colors on the palette, the mixture needs to be as desaturated as possible when you're painting in this area. It's going to have a tiny hint of magenta and blue. This is one of those themes of Kinkade's work where you have exaggerated use of depth and distance when painting objects in the background. In real life, the trees here would have more contrast and fullness of color, but with landscape art, usually we enhance the way we paint distant objects. The mist is going to have some overlap as well, where you're going to have the edges of the trees go into the mist. Now I want to come back here and work on this section of trees. I first want to reapply the paint for the background sky because it dried by now. There's going to be times when you have to do this because with all the different things we are juggling here, something is going to dry sooner or later. What I'm doing first is blending the edges of these trees with the background sky. I'm also painting the branches of these pine trees that stick out from the sides and making sure that they are carefully blended. This is also the time where I start paying attention to the values, making sure these layers properly match their respective colors. These edges are going to be lighter in value than the interior of the trees, which are going to be slightly darker because it's not standing directly against the sky. Now I want to paint some fog here at the base of these trees. I'm using a brighter version of the tree color here and blending it. This painting has lots of these foggy areas integrated into the trees, and this is a common effect that Kinkade uses in his paintings. Now I want to start painting the leaves and branches coming out of these pine trees using horizontal brushing. The color I'm using is actually less desaturated, so I'm making it more bold because I want this to stand out more from the background. This is an effect that helps separate the leaves in the front of the tree from the background, giving it more depth. And of course, I'm going to carefully blend the edges of these tiny smudges amongst the background. I'll come back later to these trees to add more textures and layers, but for now I want to work on this tree. This one will be slightly darker since it's closer to us, and I'm also changing the color to a more olive green. If you're wondering why that yellow dot is still there, that's because I want to keep these as reference points to use from the original grid I painted earlier. I still need them as I'm still matching the shapes from the original photo. As I continue adding more detail, I paint over them as I progress in the painting. Now I'm working on this orange and yellow tree. The paint is dry by now, so I'm going to add some negative space here. This is the color of the fog behind the tree. The leaves are spread out in this tree, and so in situations like this, I'm going to be going back and forth between painting the shapes of the leaf clusters along with subtracting from them with a negative space. And just like in other situations you've seen, I'm going to reapply some of these tree colors and blend them with the adjacent negative space. Now I'm going to add some textures into this tree. This tree is closer than the other ones we just did, and so the contrast will be higher. The textures here will be darker as the shadows inside the leaves are more pronounced. It's just some arbitrary smudges I'm painting here, but when it comes to painting highly detailed trees, you want to take into account the many small and subtle details that they have with their layers. And now I'm switching over to a golden yellow color and doing the same thing. What I'm doing here is adding some shades of brown, yellow, and red with varying degrees of light and dark. I want to carefully blend them adjacent to each other, so this way I can preserve their individual color, yet having these seamless transitions between them. Then I want to come down here and blend the green colors of the vegetation in the background behind this tree with these leaf clusters here. During this blocking in stage, not only do I want to establish where the smaller shapes are, but I also want to start working on the dimensions of depth as well, making sure they are locked in their position either in front or behind another object. I want to come back to this mountain and add a second coat here, as well as start adding some light values here where the sun shines. These colors here are not going to stay this way because right now they are too saturated, but later on I'm going to tone them down by adding more textures into it. Also, I'm still painting loosely right now, if you could tell. I don't want to be too rigid yet because it would be a waste of time since I'll be painting around and refining these areas later. Now for the bottom part of the mountain, I want to give it a more greener shade. And so I'm going to have this gradient of color here that transitions up to that original base color. Not only does this gradient create a better aesthetic to the painting, but it also helps segue into these pine trees here in the background. You may also have noticed so far how many color gradients and transitions there are in this painting, including these many areas of fog in between the trees. Going back to this creek, I want to add some more blending to all these blocked in shapes and colors. This section has so many small things in it clustered together that may seem overwhelming. You have this river where there's rocks all over the place, as well as the jagged riverbank that comes in at different angles. This is why it's so important to paint basic shapes first to establish these reference points. This area here will also have a dirt path on the right that I'll also want to add. In times like this, where you have so many small objects to paint, it's a good idea to take breaks and move on to other parts of the painting because I find it exhausting to focus on one area for too long. In this top left section, I want to work on a few things at one time so I can take advantage of the wet paint. The background sky is going to integrate with some of those distant pine trees. What I'm also going to do here is work on the trees in front of the pines, which are going to have some green and red leaves. I want to also take advantage here with the wet paint so that when I'm painting the leaves, I can blend them adjacent to the background, just like I did earlier in the video with that red tree by the chapel. This is something to remember, that sometimes you want to use the window of time while the paint is still wet to do some blending of the objects that you're painting. Notice how when I'm painting the tree trunks, I'm using more contrast here. The bright parts that are lit by the sun are much brighter than the shaded parts to the left. This is a pretty basic but important principle that objects closer to us will have a more dynamic range of contrast. So now I want to create a transition with these trees behind the chapel. They're going to have some mist behind them, separating them from the pine trees. Notice how both the contrast and saturation is low here. The edges of these trees also need to be blended with the mist behind them. Okay, now I want to get down to some more technique here that will be similar to what we did earlier with that red and yellow tree on the right. I'm going to add some textures here, but this time they will be much less saturated as well as having very close values to each other. With these textures, I want to add the same colors of the mist on here so that it transitions into the bottom of these trees, but also integrate it into the textures of the trees. Even though these trees are distant, they still have their own variety of color and value, so look at the reference photo to make sure you do this right. I have a variety of different green colors I'm using here, and am going to carefully blend them amongst each other. I still have some work to do here later after this layer dries, but for now I want to keep adding these textures all across this painting in every area where you have these trees and vegetation. As I progress in this painting, I'm going to be working in smaller and smaller areas where I will have to be much more deliberate in my accuracy and brushing. When you're working on a specific area of the painting, don't put any pressure on yourself to finish anything the first or even second time you paint it. It's going to involve going back and forth and retouching everything you've done. Now I want to do a similar thing here with these trees behind the chapel. I want to add some textures here as well, but this time the contrast will be higher. However, I don't want it to be too high because these trees are still fairly distant. The color is basically just a darker version of the base color of the tree. Also, pay attention to where you're placing these textures. Make sure to concentrate most of them inside the tree because you want to preserve the smooth transitions of the edges of these trees where they disappear into the mist. Alright, let's see what we have done so far. So the blocking in has been finished, and we have started working on some of the detail. The painting already looks pretty solid, and some parts may even look finished. But this is just the beginning. In the next video, part 2, we are going to go even deeper and work on the final details of the painting. So stay tuned for the next episode.